watching The Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Faye D'souza, thank you for joining us. It is International Women's Day, and I must confess, I like to do what we call roadblock programming, where we stop the news for a second and dedicate an hour of prime time to something we believe is important, or to just celebrate good work. I've got three wonderful people on the panel with me, and I'm actually using this as an opportunity to have conversations that I believe are really important. I mean, look at this panel. These are women who have sort of grabbed the driver's seat and changed the way we tell stories, who we tell stories about, and how the stories will be told. Zoya Akhtar, film director, latest, of course, of Gully Boy fame, the film that's completely, I mean, my God, that film is amazing. Guneet Monga, producer, who has just come back from LA after clutching an Oscar. Congratulations. Guneet is a producer of a film about menstruation, about periods, that won an Oscar. That's amazing. And of course, Ekta Kapoor, the joint managing director of Balaji Telefilms, managing director of Alt Digital. And Ekta's a working mom who runs a television studio, a film studio, who produces digital content and has so many shows on the floor at the same time that I wonder how she's actually creative director, and she manages and micromanages all of them. And I want to first begin by saying I'm so grateful to all of you for making time and coming here. I think that's amazing. We're also Facebook Live at this point, and our audience is going to be asking questions, and I hope you'll oblige and answer. But I want to focus on how you've changed the way stories are being told. So yeah, in Gully Boy, and Gully Boy is so amazing. Thank you for giving us.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you for giving us that film. You've got everybody now rapping and sort of like drumming under their tables, but you bring in a very different way of looking at women. The character played by Alia Bhatt, Safina, is an amazing character. She's got her own story going on at the side. And what I love about it is, it's not about, I love this boy, let me marry him, which is what it would have been 10 years ago. It's about, I want to go out, I want to meet boys, I want to go to parties, and you're not letting me. And I want to become a doctor, and I want to do a liver transplant. That's, only a woman could have written a character like that.
Two women, Rima Jati and me.
Yes. Yeah. Is that a focus? Do you see that change when you're working on stuff?
I think so. I think, you know, I also honestly believe that there have been really good female parts through the years. They've just been few and far between. And now it's just getting more consistent because there are more women in the industry. So you're seeing it coming out more frequently, and it's feeling like a bit of a movement, which is amazing. And I don't think it's going to stop.
Is it a movement?
Because I think so. Okay. I think because the influx of women in the driver's seat, whether it's producers, whether it's writers, whether it's directors, whether it's even actors who are now getting, suddenly actresses are making films. They are actually creating vehicles for themselves. Yes. So that has changed, and it's going to definitely change. So the minute you put women there, they are going to tell stories, and they're going to tell their own narrative, and you will see the female gaze, and that's a much more rounded gaze, I think.
Yes, yes. Yeah. In fact, Ekta is now working on or bringing out a Devdas from a woman's point of view, which is the female gaze, really. And this is a story we've heard as Indians for so many years, but to re-look at it and retell it from a woman's point of view, Ekta, is that specific? Is that something that you wanted to do, or did a writer bring it to you? Why would you say this is happening?
So, you know, when we see Devdas, he's got his flaws, but we've always, you know, glorified those flaws. I was like, it's high time we glorify some of our flaws. You know, we so scared. We either put on a pedestal or thrown off it. So this was a woman who was from Jaipur. She owned her sexuality. She went out. She had a lesbian best friend, and she fell in love with two men. And one was actually as old as and was her friend's father. So it was a slightly dark dogma, yet very delicious journey. And it was something that she owned up to. And I think I had to do some of the stuff I was doing. I was wanting to do some characters who are no longer on a pedestal, you know. So it was fun.
Well, Ekta, as you know, as someone who's always told different kinds of stories, and I am going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to ask you the question about films like Kya Cool Hai Hum. And I'll be honest, my very young team actually brought this up, saying you must ask this because it's always been considered bad for women. It's disrespectful. What's your response to that? Because I know you consider you call yourself a feminist. You identify as a feminist. How do you
I mean, it's as disrespectful as an American Pie.
But does that make it okay?
Can you hear me? It's as disrespectful as an American Pie. I mean, I don't think it's okay or bad. It's just the kind of language it is. It is a funny comedy. I don't think objectifying is a very big word. It's funny at times. At times it's sexy, but at no point has it suggested misogyny. And you know, honestly, I mean, there are going to be kyakulams done by us, and we will also do our lipstick under my burqas. And I think I don't want to be put on a pedestal anymore. I don't want to ever be on a pedestal. I am Flossum, I make content, some of it is really good, some of it is really trash, and you live with it.
Well, that's interesting. You allow women the ability to sort of make those mistakes, to try things that don't work out, and not make it a really big deal. Because when you do content,
some of it is mistakes, some of it is business, some of it is just content that is out there.
Yeah?
I mean, I think it's a personal choice. I think when you're an artist and you are out there putting stories out, it's a personal choice, it's a personal aesthetic, and it's how you look at what you are doing. For me, I take, like, I'm not a producer, I'm not, as yet, haven't been, putting more than one thing out there. I have been putting my story, what I'm saying, and it takes me 2 years. And when I do that, to me, it's very important what consciousness I put out into the world. It's very important for me because I am very aware of where I'm living, what is happening, and I want to be able to affect that in some way. But that's a personal choice as an artist, and I mean, live and let live.
Well, Guneet, you brought, and I believe this is really important, because on one hand we have Ekta, who's bringing in the stories that enter people's lives on a mass scale every day. They've become part of people's day-to-day schedules. On the other hand, every 2 years you hit us with something that makes us just stop. But what you did in that 26-minute film, you made people, or you allowed for a situation where people would stand up on stage in front of the whole world and talk about periods. You know, a film about periods won the Oscar. That's what everybody was saying at that time. It's, first of all, congratulations. We're so proud of you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
But tell us how that happened, where the story came from, how you decided that, yes, this is something I want to do.
It actually started in a very innocent way with schoolgirls of Oakwood in North Hollywood. They and their English teacher, Melissa Burton, read an article that lots of girls, there's so much shame attached to periods and menstruation that padhai chhod dete hain. They don't go to school and they don't know why this is happening to us, and there is just shame, day-to-day shame attached. So they thought that, you know, we should do something about it. They got in touch with Action India, an NGO based out of Delhi that has worked on ground for more than 40 years in reproductive rights, in information and education. And from there they decided that, okay, what is the possible solution? Because how do we even find a solution? So they decided to donate one pad machine. And these girls, they're like 12, 14-year-old girls, 10 of them did bake sales and yoga-thons to raise $3,000 to donate one pad machine. While this was happening, the English teacher, Melissa Burton, again, thought that we should just document the process. They had some more money, and the conversation was, should we donate one more pad machine, or should we put that money into a film and document the process, ki what happens? We put one pad machine, the process of putting it, and how does, if at all, it can change and empower lives. And that's how I got involved. The minute they thought that they have to make a movie, one of the parent is a woman called Stacey Sher, who's been my mentor. She's produced all of Tarantino movies and Erin Brockovich and Soderbergh movies. She wrote to me and saying, my daughter and her friends want to make this film in India. Can you help? And I was blown away. I met all the girls. I was like, let's do it, guys. What do you want? So I was attached as a producer, and then I mentored the process of putting the whole movie together, shooting it, and working closely with Action India and Girls of Hapur. What is very exciting is that we really saw a revolution happen on ground. And that emotion got captured in 26 minutes by Raika so beautifully. And now given the Academy's nod on the film, given what the film has been able to achieve, I personally am seeing a revolution happen outside the film. So there is a revolution happening around the world, around this film. And yes, we as the entire team of PAD Project have put menstruation on the map.
It's so cool. How do you follow up a story like that? It's so cool. I don't even know what to ask you at this point. What I thought was really cool about that film was it was not just about being able to make and supply pads to all of these women. They were the women who were earning from having made those pads, who didn't have any identity, outside of their families until they started manufacturing by hand sanitary pads, and it gave them some money in their hands. And that was just such a beautiful part, unexpected sort of result from the film, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, the way Suman, Sneha, Shabana and all of them talk in the film, I mean, Suman saying कि हम लोग पितृ सत्ता के against खड़े हो रहे हैं, मतलब I'm just blown away by women standing against, in their own right, in their own language, in their own village, against patriarchy, against misogyny, and getting empowered with what they are doing. शुरू में वो लोग झूठ बोल रहे थे. They were saying हम लोग we have a Huggies diaper unit, because people were coming and breaking that. And then once, it's taken us 3 years to put this whole...
And how most of the men in that village have either no idea what periods are, or they can't talk about it.
Yeah.
So
I have to be honest, I don't think I could talk about it before this film happened. I don't think I was that liberated. Ab PAD project, period, itna office mein bhi ho gaya that, it's become part of life, and I can go on national TV and talk about something which is so normal and further take the conversation forward. But I feel it's liberated many of us.
So yeah, that's actually the impact of content, right? The content that Ekta does, the content that Guneet does, and what you do. You basically make, when people walk out of the cinema or they've just watched a film, they talk about things that they wouldn't have otherwise talked about. Again, with Gully Boy, it was very layered and quiet that it was a Muslim character. They were Muslim characters. It was not in your face. It's not a feminist film. It was not a, it was none of those things. But it did make us, the class divide, the short duri between the driver and the woman who was sitting behind him. Everybody I know came out and talked about it, because it just brings you face to face with the world we're living in. Is that the most powerful part about content right now, and what the power we have?
I think so. I think if you can make someone feel, if you can make someone shift their opinions slightly about something that's ingrained or is there, I mean, that's the power of it. That's the power of any kind of art form. And you have to be responsible with that, I think. And you have to make sure that you're doing something with it, because you have that power and you might as well. And there's no, I mean, under the guise of entertainment, you can't be lazy, I think. You just have to, you can entertain, and at the same time, whatever you do, your politics is there.
Yes.
Whatever
so I have to ask you this. Jingustan and Azadi are very powerful tracks. And they're very bold to put out. Did you expect backlash, or did you think the trolls about whom this song is about will never get it?
No, they'll get it, but I mean, strangely, there's all this stuff that people just pick up music and then they start cutting stuff to it, and you can't control it on the net. So there have been videos made of every political party with those songs, so everyone's owning it. So you don't really know what to do with it or what to make of it, which is a good thing. But this is music that's come from there. This is music that's come from these musicians. It has come from the street, and they are writing this, and they are making it, and it is in existence,
So your dad worked on, on Duri, and he worked again with Divine, and Divine and Nazi are the rap artists on whom the film is based. Right? So is it Divine's story or Nazi's story?
No, it's neither
Who's
of their
stories. Who's the sidekick,
stories.
who's the lead?
It's neither of their stories. It's basically, Nazi was the first contact I had. I saw that song, Afat, and I contacted him, and then it all happened. So I started going to his gigs, I started meeting him, we interviewed him, then I met Divine at one of the gigs he was opening, then I started meeting Divine and started, but I met a lot of people, but I just kept going back to these two.
Let me ask you a question on behalf of all of the women in this country right now. Is MC Sher like based on a real individual? Who is he and where can we find him?
He's not based on a real individual. He's well, but he's our idea of what someone. You know, when you meet certain people in your life, like I'll meet certain filmmakers who don't, even if they don't really like me, they're really happy for me if my film does well, because they really believe that the fact that this film is in existence is bigger than you and me.
Yes.
He's that kind of artist, you know, and it's very important.
Sisters ought to be
like that.
All right, so Ekta is working on a show called Test Case. Test Case is really cool. It's about women in combat positions in the military. And India has been struggling with that idea for a really long time because we don't really know how we feel about women in combat positions. And it's really cool that, again, you're bringing this up and it will force people to start conversations around it and to ask us as, why don't we do this? Why is it something that we're uncomfortable with? So Ekta, I want to ask you, and you've had perhaps of all content producers in the last, more than the last, homes. People don't know what you think. How has storytelling changed? When someone comes to you with a character or someone comes to you, and I know that you personally actually view a lot of shows and build a lot of characters. Do you believe characters of women have changed, or do you believe that you're looking at these things more differently right now?
So, you know, there was a research carried out by the Chicago Research Agency in about 2000 to 2005, saying that for the first time, Indian women at homes were taking part in decision making because of Indian television. Because once a Tulsi or a Parvati went ahead and decided to take on and actually took on cases like marital rape, did breast tests, I mean, we had breast cancer tests in the show. I think women did change a lot. So I actually want to say that women have changed on television a lot. But with TV going more and more into smaller towns, there is more and more escapism on television. But it's actually quite interesting to see that TV actually has picked up stories that no film has. We have television which has picked up stories, and I personally have done that on women who can't have children. Now, Bombay won't watch it, but out of Bombay, it's a huge stigma for women who can't have children. And it's a huge problem because they're not considered mothers, so they're not considered complete. And India watched it because we made the lead protagonist cannot conceive. So we made her not conceive, and she had a physical issue, and that became big. I didn't do this show, but someone else has, and it's a huge hit. India, Indian television has dealt with a show about the third sex. This woman who is, I mean, she's not sexually fully defined, and it's a love story between her and a man. And actually, TV does far better stories than films do, but the narration and the narrative is very, very mass. So I personally work a lot on characters. We try to see that we bring out stories. We try to see that each of our female characters have themselves attached to some NGO or the other. We see to them that they're all TV actresses in the last 2 years that we've launched are working women. Or 5 years actually. So I think TV does a lot more. But yeah, it scares away from radical, and I try to put a lot of radical into television back. And Test Case, I don't know, we've not done it on TV, but we've done it on digital, and it's a fun thing. It was a utopian thought.
Yes, because
we said
digital
in 2018,
does offer...
they're going to have women in combative forces,
yes.
And this was shot.
Yes, so Ekta, digital does offer far more range because I don't know if the stakes are a little lower, because there's a new film called that has been produced by Priyanka Chopra. It's a Marathi film. It's called Firebrand. It's an amazing. It's a short film. It's on digital. It's an amazing film dealing with issues of sexuality between a married couple that I don't think anybody's ever gone there before, about how love and sex are two different things, and you shouldn't necessarily expect the same thing from the same person. So does working in digital allow you that bandwidth that you're able to be perhaps a little more open with the issues or bolder with the issues that you want to tackle?
Absolutely. Like for me, it's like,
you did Gandhi Baat.
for me, it's like you know, TV, we've pushed the envelope.
Yes.
But in digital, you can actually open, and you can open the spheres and do things that you've never done before. And unfortunately or fortunately, that can create any kind of content. But some of the stuff we could do in digital, like test case, even Bose, the whole conspiracy theory behind Bose. I mean, it's only digital that allows you to do that, and you pretty much can have fun there.
Well, let me read out some of the questions, points that have come in. Kriti Kochar says, kudos to Zoya. You used to show us the rich life and now you showed us a very different kind of story. So there was a marked difference there. You chose, and the film was about the classes and how the classes live so close to each other. But there's a huge difference. Why did you decide to tell that story?
I mean, I like subcultures, and whether it was the film industry, which in itself is a subculture, whether it is a particular crust of society in Delhi, which to me is a subculture,
yes.
Which is if it's, you know, rapper musicians from the streets of Dharavi, Delhi, sorry, earlier, and Dharavi now, that's a subculture.
Yes.
Dil Dhadakne Do also is a serious social critique, whether people got it or not. So I like that. I like those kind of narratives. I like those kind of stories. And I'm going to keep doing different stuff. I'm just going to mix it up. And, you know, some people will like this and some people like that.
Some people like that.
Yeah.
So whatever story is in your heart at that time, that's the one you work on. I actually want to talk about how you guys got here, and it was not easy for any of you, for all three of you. Guneet, you're the only person I know who aged yourself and dyed your hair grey and actually purposely started to dress like you were older because no one would take you seriously. You were too young, and you didn't come from a Bollywood family. So people were like, who are you? Why would I even give you a meeting? How did you start off? And the industry has its ups and downs, so good days and there are very, very bad times. How did you get through it?
I think I started out with I was 21 years old when I came to Bombay, and I got some money from my neighbor, and it's a crazy story. I used to keep meeting people in cafes and said, "Mere paas 50 lakh rupees, aapke paas kahani hai? I want to make a film." I mean, I started as an intern in international films doing production work, but in Bombay I wanted to be a producer. I made 2 movies, and then actually went and worked for Ekta for 9 months on Once Upon a Time in Mumbai, and then picked up momentum again and again decided to be a producer and started producing. Yes, I've always been very young, and I have learned tricks of looking older. I used to wear saris, I used to wear different specs, I used to stay quiet, send my opinions to my male colleague on SMS, because if I put it in the room, it would not be taken.
So when you were sitting in a room full of people and you're the only woman there, you would hold your opinion back.
Absolutely.
And text it to a man instead.
Yes.
Because you
especially
deal
commercial points. Because a young ladki can't explain, how contracts will be done. So I've seen that. I've seen people looking through me. But yeah, I think the only way to do whatever we're doing is to show up every morning and continue doing it. Just truly continue doing it, and one day those those dots are joined and it all makes sense.
Tell me, you called all these people and said, "Acha, my friend Oscar and I say."
No, it's interesting. I mean, it's great to be a part of a movie it's great to produce a movie that goes on to win the Oscar. It's the highest achievement in our business that one can get. But I think even without that, I think you have to just continue telling your stories, and that's what I really want to do. I hope now it gets easier.
Well, I want to point out to Ekta that we've got a message on Facebook from Ujwala who says, watching Ekta Kapoor serials changed women, made them bolder and more confident. So I suppose for urban women, we didn't understand this as much. But for women across the country to be able to, say, stand up to, someone who is older in the household, to be able to address things like pregnancies, extramarital affairs, things like that, and actually be able to talk about it. These things, these shows actually dealt with a different world. Ekta?
Yeah, I did actually. And I mean, I've always asked these questions that why do women wear so much makeup? And I'm like, let them be. Sometimes sari empowers you, sometimes the swimsuit does. And these were women, they were very, very, honestly, you know, I mean, when I was casting for television, I used to say they have to look like many other women that, and for me, living in Bombay, living in Juhu as a single girl, making stories about mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws, I mean, it was tough because I was dealing with a world that I didn't know much about. But, you know, you have to have empathy. And the moment you have empathy, you realize that people out of your society, I mean, for me, my audience begins from Vashi. South Bombay doesn't even care. And I don't care about them. They're a sliver of an audience. We're talking about a 1.3 billion population. I am not interested in South Bombay telling me how the jewelry is too tacky, you know. Really? That's what you noticed? So, yeah. But at the end of the day, I was dealing with stories and we picked up marital rape. Actually, that was my biggest point. When, I mean, it was the most filmy scene. People thought it was the worst short scene ever. It was the highest rated scene. That's on the other side. But Tulsi shot her own son because India has no law for marital rape. And he said it's okay because she's my wife. I can sleep with her. And where a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law usually fight, she said, I'm taking a stand for this woman who stays in my house. You can't touch her without her consent. And we got banned by the classes saying that, oh my God, so tacky. How can you just shoot your son? But it became a high point because a lot of mothers said, we will now not stand with us. And we have always had a society where two women fight for the man as if he's a prize. Television, at least with most of our shows, we changed that. We said, let's show some bonding. Let them not fight for the man. And I think that's what's worked.
Well, we have a lot of messages coming in. One of them is from Mayank Sharma, who said, so proud of Guneet Monga for winning the Oscars. I think we're all so proud of you. I don't think you can say it enough at this point.
Thank you.
Chetan Bhattacharya, Faye, please ask Zoya if Gully Boy is her
Guneet, we're very proud of you. Very, very proud of you.
Thank you, Ekta. Thank you.
There is Chetan who says, please ask Zoya if Gully Boy is her best creation so far.
I don't think my best creation so far has been created.
What are you working on? Tell us, tell us.
I've got a couple of ideas, but I haven't stopped working since Gully Boy to feel what I want to do next. I need some time off. Yeah, so I've just been working continuously.
So do you wake up in the morning? Do you guys wake up in the morning and stare at the ceiling and say, I'm so awesome. No. I'm so good. I made Gully Boy. I'm so cool. I won an Oscar. Yeah. How do you take time to sort of reaffirm that what you're doing, you know, the success, and this is, you know, normally films either get box office or they get critical acclaim, or people are playing it on loop on their you know, playlists. You've got all three. You've actually introduced larger India to the idea of rap and the idea of that art form. So it's being accepted so widely right now. Have you let that sink in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to let it sink in. Actually, like I said, I've just started working, and I'm going to plug this, but my show just dropped today on Amazon, so it's Made in Heaven. So I've been working on that. It's dropped today, and now I'm going to let all this sink in and see how it goes. And that's it, yeah. I mean, it was a huge relief. Because it wasn't just a film, and it wasn't just about my career and the money I've taken from my producer and put in it. There were a lot of artists attached to this film. There were like 54 collaborators on the music, and they've opened their lives, they've opened their stories, they've opened, you know, this film was for them on a huge level, and it needed to work, and it needed to be good, and it neaded to be authentic, because they are authentic. So I'm relieved.
You're relieved that it has been so widely accepted. I must ask you, I mean, you're your father's daughter. You came in, people knew who you were. You assisted your brother in his first couple of films. Were you at the receiving end of any sort of sexism when you started off for being a woman, or did you?
You know, not really. I mean, a little bit here. You know, like I've really thought about this. I've grown up in an environment where I grew up. I mean, my dad is a massive feminist. Farhan and me were brought up like equals. Everyone in my extended family, they're only feminists. Like which wasn't like a thing when you were growing up. It was just the way of the world. And when you go into college, you realize, oh, sexism. Oh, you know, this person is treated differently from their brother. So I think if people were sexist towards me, I think I missed it. I don't think I was
Ekta,
conscious enough.
did you receive any sort of sexism? I know that you don't hold back. You give it back to anybody who says something. But when you started off and there was success and there was some failure, did anybody turn around and say, because she's a woman? Did you receive any of that?
Me?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think sexism se zyada I received all kinds of perceptions on me, and I think sexism was one of them. I started a company and I used my mom's name instead of my dad's. That itself was a huge issue. That your dad's far more famous. Why are you calling it Shobha Kapoor and Ekta Kapoor? Who are you two? I mean, you should use your dad's name. Secondly, why don't you lose weight, become an actress? What is the producer? Producer's a man's job. Why are you trying to be a man? I mean, I was like, but I want to be a producer because that's a job and I want to do it. So yeah, that kind of sexism a lot. And then of course, constantly, because it was a two-women company, people never had a mother and a daughter start a company. It was always father and daughter, father and son. This itself was a bit of a problem.
You know, and here's the interesting thing, in your producers, in your writers and directors, how often, Ekta, do people walk up to male producers and entrepreneurs and directors and say, lose some weight, ye kyun pehna hai, skin ko sambhalo, why don't you take care of yourself? Nobody ever says that to a man, but they won't think twice about saying it to a woman and saying so repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, you have to dress up. I remember there was a celebrities worst dressed list and I was like topping that list. And I was like, why is there no celebrity males in that list who are producers? I'm supposed to work, then go home, handle myself, go for a workout, look great and compete with the actresses. And then land up at those parties wearing new clothes every time. I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'll wear the same dress 5 times, live with it.
Do you get any of that?
I get it.
Because you're at events.
Yeah, I get it. I've been on panels with men and I've seen an interview and below that in YouTube it'll be like, she's so bad looking. And I'm like, I'm a beauty compared to the people around here. Are you out of your mind? Are you looking at the men next to me? So you do get it. You just have to ignore it.
And it's amazing how men will get away with wearing the same suit over and over again and just changing the tie and nobody notices. Yeah. But somehow for a woman, they will always have some sort of opinion on your clothes.
Yeah, it is immediately associated with how you look.
Yeah. Should we be like Guneet and just age ourselves 20 years? Have nobody take you seriously at all?
Just don't ever tell anybody that you're 25, 26. I mean, I'm not in my 20s now, but yeah.
I could tell people I'm 25, but I'd be lying. No, but I do want to ask you this because now, and I believe that we are privileged to be born in an era where there are women like yourselves in positions of control. You control the tone, you control the casting, you control all of these things. One, we're coming out of a Me Too movement. And a lot of people I've met have felt that it didn't amount to anything. That the entire India's Me Too movement didn't mean anything and people have just gone back to where they were. I want to know, first of all, if that's true. Secondly, can women like yourselves at this point support each other, support the ones who are coming up, actually create spaces in which more artists like yourself will find space? So my first question to you is, do you believe that the Indian Me Too movement was all for nothing? Have we made a change? Has there been a change?
Of course there's been a change.
What's the change?
I think there's been an entire shift in attitude. I think people are suddenly aware, people are talking about it, people are discussing it. We're talking about sexual harassment was on prime time, which didn't exist, that conversation.
But have film sets changed?
Of course. Okay. You have to have guidelines and you have to have the Vishaka guidelines and you have to have committees and all production houses are aware. People, earlier it was like, okay, the big stuff you don't do, but it's that little everyday sexism. It's that, that inappropriate touch. It's that kind of stuff. People are suddenly conscious of that. And men are going to think twice and women are going to turn around and be able to be like, dude, back up, because there is a precedent set. And I mean, it didn't amount to much in the sense that maybe no one went to court and nobody took, nobody filed a case. But that's a matter of time. It will happen. And a girls' club came out of this, which didn't exist. It was a solid boys' club.
Yes.
So, there was a women were standing up for each other and saying, no, he's lying. This happened to me as well. So, a girls' club, which I hope never gets dismantled, and the shame shifted. from the
Yes.
girl to the boy.
Well,
which is great.
Ekta, I want to ask you this question. Do you believe that things have actually changed? And I want to understand, in the West right now, they're signing things called, diversity riders, where stars are saying, I will work on this film on this set if the set hires enough minority people, if the set hires enough women to work on set. If you are truly an inclusive set, only then I will work with you. Do you believe that we have now more room for women to work behind the camera, to work in other aspects other than just as, in front of the camera as actresses? Are we making enough room, Ekta?
So actually television is a very different medium, and I'm talking about that because I don't think many people are aware that the pay shift on television, women get paid far better than men. We have an industry which is almost run by women. When I entered, there were very few women. Now there are almost 60% of the producers are women. And we have most of the writers are women. It's a medium for women, by women, and it's clearly run by women. As far as giving minorities a certain, women are not a minority in most of the places where I work. Most of the women who work in Balaji are women. I feel because of that, there is a certain amount of sensitivity that has come in. The Me Too movement has made a huge impact. I mean, now I don't have girls getting scared to go on certain sets because they know that they can take a stand. They were never scared on our sets because we have the Vishaka movement, the posh movement from many, many years. But there was always a fear leaving a set, if somebody will fire you and this and that. I don't want to tell the boss. With me, I've always taken a very strong stand with anything that goes wrong with our women. Because, I mean, sometimes women can't take that stand and you can't expect them to because they have had to face a work culture where they haven't been taught to take a stand.
Yes.
So I think the Me Too culture is here to stay. It's in popular writing now, by the way. It's really in popular writing. People are talking about it कि उसका Me Too scandal हो गया, उसकी गलती थी, लड़के की गलती थी, and it's become something that people know, and it's huge. It's very important for a woman to feel safe.
Guneet, we should also, and you talked about the girls' club that has now sort of come up, and it's come up in various industries as well. Can the girls' club support each other? Can we be MC Sheirs to each other and, support, be happy, give support of various kinds? Because each woman right now, even on this panel, is in a position of power where we can lend support. So if you were to write the sort of manifesto for the girls' club, what would you ask for? What would you want it to be?
So I actually strongly believe that if you win, I win. I think that is my motto. It was said to me by another empowered woman who celebrated my work and said, if you win, I win. And I feel that, for a long time, we've been put in a place where, because of lack of opportunity, we've been in competition. So yes. it's when women think that it's either me or you. No, it's all of us. We're a team and we together rise. I think my little short film is a classic example of a relay where the girls from LA, young girls, started it and it's made enough noise in Hapur, from girls of Hapur.
Yes.
And now across the world we are listening to it. It's a full women empowerment thing. So I think one woman can empower another, and that is just so beautiful when we are a team.
Yes. Zoya, can the girls' club be like MC Sheirs?
Yeah, I think
we
so.
We put up posters.
I think so. You know what I mean? I think so.
What would you want us to do? What would you want the club to do?
I think what I want to do at least is be able to enable more women to tell stories, to tell stories about whatever they want. It needn't be women's stories. It
Absolutely.
can be whatever story they want to tell.
Whatever compels you.
Whatever compels them, whatever moves them, whatever inspires them, to be able to do that. And to enable people within my field to rise.
Actually, that's the other thing, right? So when women work, and this, I'll be very honest, happens to me as well, and to the channel I represent, ki, ye to matlab ladies ke baare mein baat karegi, this will be... So it's considered to be softer, and it's considered... I mean, while we take up everything that everybody else takes up, somehow something fronted by a woman will be, it's sort of set to the side as this will be this will be a woman-centric story. that perhaps is something else we need to break.
Yeah, that I think will break also with the audience. I don't think that they're thinking that it's not so, like in our industry, like nobody in our industry says female filmmaker. Only people outside keep saying female filmmaker. In the industry, people don't use this terminology. And they are not anymore worried if you're a woman helming a project. That's gone.
That's gone.
Yeah. Because there's been enough success stories.
Ekta, very quickly, before I run out of time, can we create a club of powerful women who help other women rise and tell stories?
So we have almost created that, and I think we have that club. I think a lot of women I work with are directors and producers, Alankrita, Riya, and I think most of the times, at least 30% of our films are with women. Television is all with women, so I think the club is there. I think more than anything else is the younger women who we need to empower, women who are married, sometimes feel that they have to go back home. I think, like now I've put a creche in Balaji. I should have done that many years ago, before I became a mother. You know, things like this, so that women at work can have the comfort to bring their children, at the same time can continue with their jobs. And, you know, I think small things like that will also help them tell their stories.
Absolutely. We have completely run out of time. This show is over. But in conclusion, first of all, I want to thank the three of you for making time. It's been amazing to have this conversation with you. It is a message that I'm putting out for people who are watching this evening who run businesses. Look around your business and examine the fact that are women still working with you after they have children, after they've gotten married, or have they dropped out? If they have, get your HR to do a quick study and find out what is wrong. Why are women leaving your organization? Because if you have more and more women rise to the top and sit in boardrooms and make decisions, you'll have different points of view. And they will be able to mentor, and they will be able to help other women rise. And that will only result in a more robust company. The success rates are very, very high. Take a look at the panel and look at the research. Very, very happy International Women's Day to all of the women who are watching. And thank you to the male allies, the men in our lives who support us and who teach us that anything is possible. Thanks for watching. Good night.